Mary Thompson was a single mother living in a small, worn-down apartment on the edge of the city. Her life was a constant struggle, juggling multiple jobs while trying to raise her 7-year-old son, Liam, in a world that seemed indifferent to their hardships. Every morning, Mary would wake before sunrise, quietly tiptoeing around the apartment so as not to wake Liam, and prepare a simple breakfast for him before rushing off to her first job at the local diner. She worked long hours, serving plates of eggs and coffee to people who barely noticed her, all the while keeping a watchful eye on the clock to make sure she could return in time to pick Liam up from his small after-school program. Despite her exhaustion, she always carried a sense of responsibility and warmth in her heart that refused to be dimmed by the weight of life's challenges. On this particular evening, as the orange glow of sunset began to fade behind the tall, crowded buildings of the city, Mary was walking home from the diner with Liam holding her hand tightly. Liam had a small, worn-out backpack slung over one shoulder, and his sneakers tapped lightly against the cracked sidewalk. Mary was tired, her feet aching, and her stomach still empty from the long day, but she forced a smile when Liam looked up at her and asked if they could stop by the small park near their apartment. She nodded, wanting to give her son a moment of joy even though she knew their budget barely allowed for such indulgences. As they neared the park, Mary noticed a figure sitting alone on the edge of the sidewalk under the flickering light of a street lamp. The man was elderly, his hair completely gray, and his clothes were worn and dirty. His face was lined with age and hardship, and his hands shook slightly as he held an empty tin cup in front of him. He looked around, as if hoping someone might notice him, yet his eyes carried a deep sadness that made Mary pause in her steps. She felt a sudden pang in her heart, recognizing a reflection of the world's harshness in his tired gaze. Liam tugged gently on her sleeve, sensing her hesitation. "Mom, he looks hungry," Liam said softly. Mary knelt down to Liam's level and whispered, "You're right, honey. Let's help him." She reached into her bag and pulled out the small sandwich she had saved for Liam's lunch, now wrapped neatly in wax paper. "Sir, would you like some food?" she asked gently, extending it toward the man. The elderly man's eyes widened with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. He looked at Mary, then at Liam, then back at the sandwich, as if unable to believe that anyone would offer kindness without expecting anything in return. Thank you so much," he murmured, his voice trembling. Mary smiled warmly and said, "Here, take it. We have enough to share." Liam watched intently, his small hands folded together as if in prayer, and Mary felt a deep sense of pride swelling in her chest. She could see the relief in the man's eyes as he accepted the sandwich carefully, almost reverently, and took a small bite. The street around them seemed to fade for a moment, the honking cars, the distant voices, and the rush of city life were replaced by the quiet, simple connection between a stranger and a mother trying to do the right thing. The man ate slowly, savoring each bite, and Mary noticed tears forming at the corners of his eyes. "God bless you," he whispered again, his voice now a little steadier. Mary reached out and gently placed her hand on his arm. "It's nothing, sir. We all need a little help sometimes," she said softly. Liam, still holding his mother's hand, added, "Yeah, everyone deserves food." Mary chuckled softly, ruffling his hair. "That's right, Liam. And sometimes, even a little food can make a big difference." They stayed there for a few more moments, making sure the man had eaten enough, and even shared some water from Mary's small bottle. Then, as the evening grew darker and the city lights flickered on, Mary and Liam prepared to leave. "Are you going to be okay?" Mary asked the man. He nodded slowly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Yes, yes, thanks to you. You reminded me that there are still kind people in this world," he said. Mary smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Take care of yourself," she said, before gently guiding Liam away. As they walked home, Liam looked up at his mother with wide, thoughtful eyes. "Mom, do you think he'll be okay tonight?" he asked. Mary paused, taking a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill her lungs. "I hope so, honey. We did what we could, and sometimes, that's all anyone can do," she replied, squeezing his hand. Liam nodded, seeming satisfied with her answer, though Mary could see the concern still lingering in his eyes. They continued walking, passing the familiar shops and street corners, and Mary thought about the fragile lives that often went unnoticed in the city: the homeless, the elderly, the lonely, and the forgotten. She thought about how easy it could have been to walk past the man, to ignore him like so many others did every day, and a shiver ran down her spine as she realized how small actions could carry so much weight. Mary knew her life was far from perfect. Bills piled up on her kitchen counter, her apartment was cramped and worn, and the future often seemed uncertain. But in that moment, she felt a spark of hope, a reminder that even in the hardest times, human kindness could create something beautiful and meaningful. As they approached their apartment building, Mary glanced back once more, wondering if the elderly man would find shelter for the night, and silently wished him peace and comfort. Liam yawned, leaning against her shoulder, and Mary felt the exhaustion of the day settle into her bones. Yet, despite her tiredness, she felt lighter, as if the simple act of helping someone else had lifted a small weight from her heart. She carried her son up the narrow stairwell to their apartment, unlocking the door and stepping inside, where the familiar smells of home greeted them. Liam ran to his small bed and climbed under the blanket, and Mary tucked him in, smoothing his hair and whispering a quiet good night. She watched him drift off to sleep, his chest rising and falling rhythmically, and thought about the man they had helped earlier. She didn't know his name, where he had come from, or where he would sleep tonight, but she knew that for a few moments, they had made a difference in his life. That thought brought a small smile to her lips as she turned to the tiny kitchen to prepare a cup of tea for herself. She leaned against the counter, staring out the small window at the city lights twinkling in the distance, and felt a mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment. Life was hard, and sometimes it felt overwhelming, but she knew that kindness, no matter how small, had the power to change lives. Mary sat quietly for a few minutes, letting the warmth of the tea seep into her hands, and whispered a promise to herself, that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would never stop helping others when she could, and she would continue to teach Liam the importance of compassion, empathy, and hope. The night grew deeper, and the city outside settled into its usual rhythm, but Mary felt a quiet peace. She had given, and in doing so, had been reminded of her own strength and the quiet beauty that existed even in life's struggles. And somewhere, she hoped, the elderly man sat down to rest that night, with a bit of food in his stomach and a renewed sense of hope in his heart, all thanks to the simple kindness of a single mother and her little boy. The next morning, Mary woke before the sun, her body heavy with tiredness from the previous day, but her mind alert with the responsibilities that awaited her. Liam was still asleep in his small bed, his soft breathing a comforting rhythm that reminded her why she endured the daily struggles of life. Mary quietly moved around the apartment, preparing a simple breakfast of toast and milk, careful not to make too much noise, knowing that Liam would soon wake up and begin his small morning routine of washing up and dressing for school. As she worked, she couldn't stop thinking about the elderly man from the night before. What would he do today? Would he find a place to rest, or would the streets remain cold and lonely for him? She felt a pull in her heart, a mixture of concern and empathy, knowing that the world often overlooked people like him, people who had once lived full lives but were now left vulnerable and unseen. After waking Liam and helping him get ready, she packed his lunch, just a simple sandwich and an apple, knowing their budget was tight and every dollar mattered, but she included a small extra piece of bread, thinking it might serve another hungry soul if the opportunity arose. Liam noticed and asked, "Mom, are we going to help someone again today?" Mary smiled at his innocent curiosity and replied, "We'll see, honey. We always try to help if we can." They stepped out into the cool morning air, the city already buzzing with people rushing to work, school, or their own errands. Mary held Liam's hand tightly, guiding him through the crowded streets, all the while keeping a careful watch for the elderly man. Hours passed, and despite her attention, she did not see him, and a small worry settled in her chest. She reminded herself that she had given him food yesterday, and that sometimes, one act of kindness was enough to carry someone through a difficult day. At the diner, Mary's day was long and exhausting. She worked tirelessly, serving coffee, refilling plates, and keeping a cheerful smile on her face even when customers were rude or impatient. She kept Liam's thoughts and safety in mind, motivated by the responsibility of being both mother and provider. As she took orders, her mind wandered to the elderly man, imagining him wrapped in a blanket, finding a warm corner or perhaps receiving help from someone else. She felt a small tug of sadness but also a quiet sense of hope, knowing that compassion could ripple far beyond a single act. By late afternoon, Mary closed the diner, her feet sore and stomach growling despite the small snacks she had managed to grab throughout the day. She thought about how little time there was for rest, yet she never allowed herself to complain. Life was hard, yes, but the moments of connection, the small smiles, the simple thank yous were what made it all worthwhile. On her walk home, she noticed the park again, the same one where she had met the elderly man the night before. Children were playing, their laughter echoing across the empty benches, and she paused for a moment, letting Liam watch the swings for a while. As they lingered, she saw a small figure in the distance, leaning against the fence near the park's edge. Her heart skipped a beat. It was the elderly man. He looked weaker than the day before, his clothes still worn and his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the tattered blanket around his shoulders. Mary felt a surge of concern and compassion, realizing that perhaps he had not eaten properly since she last saw him. Without hesitation, she approached him, Liam trailing closely behind. "Good afternoon, sir," she said gently. "Are you okay?" The man looked up, surprised but clearly relieved to see her. I'm managing," he said softly, his voice weak but filled with gratitude. Mary knelt down slightly, offering him the small sandwich she had packed for Liam's lunch earlier. "Please, have this. You look like you could use it," she said kindly. Liam watched, his eyes wide, and added, "Here, you can eat it, sir." The man's eyes filled with tears, and he accepted the sandwich with a careful hand, as if every bite was a treasure. "God bless you both," he whispered, his voice shaking. Mary smiled warmly. "It's nothing. We all need help sometimes." They sat there for a few minutes, watching the world go by, sharing a quiet connection in the midst of the bustling city. As the elderly man ate slowly, Mary asked him his name. He hesitated, then said softly, "Henry, my name is Henry." She nodded, remembering it, and felt a sense of closeness she hadn't expected. Liam leaned against her, watching Henry with curiosity and admiration, and Mary explained softly, "Sometimes helping someone makes their day a little brighter." "You're making Henry's day brighter too, Liam." After ensuring that Henry had eaten enough, Mary stood and offered him a bottle of water from her bag. "Drink some of this," she said. "Stay hydrated." Henry accepted the water with a grateful nod, and Mary felt a warmth in her chest that no amount of money or comfort could buy. As the evening approached, Mary and Liam had to return to their apartment. "Are you going to be okay tonight, Henry?" Mary asked, concerned. He nodded, though she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. "I'll find a way," he said, though Mary sensed that he might struggle. She gave him a final smile and said, "Take care of yourself, Henry. And remember, kindness can come from the most unexpected places." Mary and Liam continued walking home, their hands intertwined, and Mary felt the weight of the day pressing on her shoulders. Yet, despite the exhaustion, there was a quiet joy that lingered in her heart, a feeling that comes from knowing you've made a positive difference in someone's life. Once home, Mary prepared a small dinner for herself and Liam, keeping things simple but warm, and they ate together at their tiny kitchen table. Liam chattered about his day, about school and friends, and Mary listened with patience, though her mind kept drifting back to Henry. She thought about how fragile life could be, how easily someone could slip through the cracks of society, and how important it was to offer help when you could. After dinner, she tucked Liam into bed, his small body warm and safe under the blanket. She watched him for a moment, brushing his hair from his forehead, and whispered a quiet prayer for Henry's safety and well-being. The night outside was calm, the city lights twinkling faintly through the window, but Mary felt a restless energy in her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the elderly man, wondering if he had found shelter or someone to talk to, someone who could help him as she had. Sleep eventually claimed her, but even in her dreams, Henry's face lingered, a reminder of the small yet meaningful impact one act of kindness could create. When morning came, Mary awoke with renewed determination. She had work to do, bills to pay, and responsibilities to fulfill, but she also carried with her a deeper understanding of the importance of compassion. Life was full of challenges, but through it all, she knew that giving even when you had little was what made life beautiful. As she prepared breakfast and watched Liam eat quietly, she thought about the path that lay ahead, uncertain and often difficult, but filled with opportunities to touch lives in ways that mattered. And somewhere in the city, Henry moved carefully through the streets, carrying with him a sense of hope that Mary had helped rekindle, a reminder that even in the hardest times, the kindness of strangers could shine like a beacon in the dark. The next day, Mary awoke early, the soft morning light filtering through the thin curtains of her small apartment. Her body ached from the long hours she had worked the previous day, but her heart felt a quiet resolve, knowing she had made a difference in Henry's life. Liam was already up, rubbing his eyes and yawning, eager to start the day despite the fact that school was a short walk away. Mary quickly prepared a small breakfast, toast with a little jam, and poured a glass of milk for her son. As they ate, she asked Liam if he wanted to take a different route to school today, one that passed by the park again. Liam nodded enthusiastically, and Mary smiled, feeling a sense of purpose in showing him that kindness and awareness of others were important lessons to carry through life. They set off together, Mary holding Liam's small hand tightly, scanning the streets for any sign of Henry. As they approached the park, Mary's heart leapt. There he was, sitting quietly on the same bench where she had met him the day before. His posture was slumped, and he seemed weaker than before, his coat hanging loosely on his frail frame. Mary quickened her pace and called out softly, "Henry, good morning. Are you all right?" Henry looked up, a flicker of recognition and relief in his tired eyes. "Good morning, Mary, good morning, Liam," he said, his voice weak but steady. Mary knelt beside him and handed him a small breakfast she had packed, a sandwich and some fruit. "Here, eat something. You need strength for the day," she said gently. Henry accepted it with gratitude, nibbling slowly, savoring each bite as though it were a rare gift. Liam watched intently, his small face full of concern and curiosity. "Mom, he's really hungry, isn't he?" Liam asked quietly. Mary nodded, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Yes, honey. Sometimes life is hard, and people go without even the simplest things. That's why we help whenever we can." After Henry finished eating, Mary offered him a bottle of water. He drank it slowly, careful not to spill a drop, and thanked them both sincerely. "You don't know how much this means to me," he said softly. Mary smiled and shook her head. "We just want to help, Henry. That's all." They stayed there for a while, sitting quietly on the bench, listening to the sounds of the city around them. Children's laughter echoed from the playground, and the distant hum of traffic reminded Mary of how many lives moved past Henry every day without noticing him. She felt a deep empathy for him, understanding that the elderly, the lonely, and the struggling often existed at the edges of society, invisible and forgotten. After a while, Mary and Liam had to leave to make it to school and work on time. "Will you be okay today?" Mary asked Henry gently. He nodded, though she could see the fragility in his movements. "I'll manage, thanks to you," he replied. Mary squeezed his shoulder lightly. "Remember, someone is always watching out for you. You're not alone." As they walked away, Liam glanced back, frowning slightly. "Mom, what if he doesn't have anyone else?" Mary felt a pang in her chest but kept her tone calm. "Then we just keep helping when we can, honey. That's all any of us can do." After dropping Liam off at school, Mary headed to her first job of the day at the diner, the familiar routine greeting her like an old friend. She worked tirelessly, serving customers with a smile despite her exhaustion. Between refilling coffee cups, taking orders, and cleaning tables, she found herself thinking about Henry repeatedly. She wondered where he would sleep tonight, if he would find a safe corner somewhere, and whether anyone else would notice him. Her heart ached at the thought of people going hungry, struggling, and being overlooked, yet she felt determined to continue helping whenever possible. The day dragged on, the hours blending together in a haze of work and responsibilities. During a brief break, Mary stepped outside and took a deep breath, feeling the sun warm her face and the city hum around her. She thought about how small gestures could carry enormous weight, how one sandwich, one bottle of water, or one kind word could restore hope in a person's life. She realized that her struggles, though heavy and tiring, had given her a unique perspective and empathy for others who were suffering. When her shift ended, Mary returned home, her feet sore and her body weary, but her spirit lifted by the thought that she had done something meaningful that day. Liam ran to meet her at the door, excited to share his small school adventures. Mary listened patiently, nodding and smiling, though her mind still wandered to Henry and the challenges he faced. She prepared a simple dinner, and as they ate, she explained to Liam that helping others was not always about grand gestures but about noticing those in need and doing what little you could. Liam nodded, his small eyes wide with understanding, and asked if they could bring food to Henry again the next day. Mary smiled softly. "Yes, honey, We will. We will help him as much as we can. After dinner, Mary tucked Liam into bed, brushing his hair from his forehead and whispering a gentle good night. She lingered for a moment, thinking about Henry and how a small act of kindness could create ripples far beyond what anyone could see. That night, Mary's thoughts were filled with a mixture of exhaustion and purpose. She reflected on her own life, how hard it was, how uncertain the future seemed, and yet how meaningful it became when she extended her heart to others. Somewhere in the city, Henry found a quiet spot to rest, carrying with him a piece of food, a sip of water, and the warmth of Mary and Liam's care. Mary closed her eyes, imagining his face, hoping he would feel safe and remembered. As the city settled into its night rhythm, Mary allowed herself a few moments of peace, knowing that her life was full of challenges but also full of opportunities to make a difference. She thought about the people she might never meet, the lives that intersected briefly with her own, and the ways in which kindness could travel silently, leaving lasting impact. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, it was filled with dreams of hope and connection, visions of Henry smiling and walking confidently through the streets, supported not just by the small meal she had given him, but by the knowledge that someone cared. The next morning, Mary awoke with renewed determination, ready to face the day with the same courage and compassion that had guided her so far. She knew that each day brought new challenges, new opportunities to help, and that even a single act could create a ripple effect of goodness. Mary prepared breakfast, packed lunches, and got Liam ready for school, all while planning to check on Henry once more. As they stepped outside, the city greeted them with its usual rush and noise, but Mary's focus was steady. Today, she thought, she would continue to make a difference, one small act at a time. And somewhere in the city, Henry moved carefully through the streets, carrying with him the hope and gratitude of someone who had reminded him that life still held kindness, warmth, and human connection. Mary felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that while she could not solve every problem or feed every hungry person, she could make a difference in the life of someone who truly needed it. She squeezed Liam's hand and whispered, "Let's go, honey. Let's make today a good day for someone who needs it." Liam smiled sleepily but eagerly, understanding in his own way the importance of compassion, and together they walked forward into the day, unaware that their simple kindness was about to lead to something far greater than either of them could have imagined, a chain of events that would change their lives and the life of Henry in ways that were still unfolding, quietly and powerfully, like the soft light of the morning sun breaking through the city's endless buildings. The next morning, Mary woke early as usual, her mind already filled with thoughts of Henry, the elderly man whose life she had touched through simple acts of kindness. She prepared breakfast quietly for Liam, who still rubbed his sleepy eyes but was eager to start the day. As they finished eating, Mary packed his lunch and included a small extra sandwich for Henry, hoping he would find it and know that someone cared. Holding Liam's hand, they walked toward the park once more, the streets alive with morning energy, people hurrying past, cars honking, and the distant sound of construction filling the air. When they arrived, Henry was there, sitting in the same spot where they had met before, but something seemed different today. There was a quiet dignity about him, a faint sparkle in his eyes, as if the kindness Mary and Liam had shown had rekindled a part of him he thought long lost. Mary handed him the sandwich and some water, and Henry accepted them with a grateful nod, his hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, both of you," he said softly. "You don't know how much this means." Mary smiled, brushing his hair back gently from his forehead. "We just want to help, Henry. That's all. You deserve it." They spent a few quiet minutes together, and then Mary noticed a sleek, black car slowly pull up near the park. A man stepped out, dressed neatly in a suit, his polished shoes reflecting the morning sunlight. He approached Henry, his gaze gentle but firm, and Mary could sense an air of authority and kindness combined. Henry looked up, and his eyes widened slightly as he recognized the man. "William," he whispered, his voice carrying surprise and a hint of relief. William knelt beside Henry and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Father. I found you," he said softly, his tone filled with both concern and tenderness. Mary watched in quiet awe as the connection between the two men unfolded. William looked at Mary and Liam, a smile breaking across his face. "Are you the ones who have been helping my father?" he asked, his eyes full of warmth and gratitude. Mary nodded, feeling a mix of surprise and humility. "Yes, we just wanted to help. That's all," she said softly. William's expression grew serious but kind. "You have no idea what this means to me and my father. Thank you for your compassion. He talks about you constantly." Henry reached out and took Mary's hand, his grip surprisingly strong despite his frail appearance. "God bless you, Mary," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You reminded me that there are still good people in the world, and that hope is never completely lost." Mary felt tears well up in her eyes as she gently patted Henry's hand. "It was nothing, Henry. I'm just glad you're safe and that you know someone cares." Liam stood quietly beside her, his small hand gripping hers tightly. "Mom, he's really happy now," Liam whispered, and Mary nodded, feeling the truth in his words. William looked at Mary, his eyes reflecting sincerity. "I want to make sure you and your son are taken care of, just as you took care of my father when he needed it most," he said. Mary's heart skipped a beat, unsure how to respond, overwhelmed by the kindness and generosity in front of her. I don't know what to say," she murmured, feeling tears threaten to spill over. William smiled warmly. "No need to say anything. Just know that your kindness has created a ripple effect that changed lives, including my father's, mine, and potentially yours as well." Henry reached out to William and held his hand, a quiet moment of connection passing between father and son. Mary watched, her chest swelling with a mixture of relief, happiness, and awe. She realized that the small act of sharing a sandwich had led to this moment, a reminder that even the simplest gestures of kindness could reach far beyond what anyone could imagine. William turned back to Mary and Liam. "I would like to help you," he said earnestly. "We can provide opportunities for you, support you in ways that can make your life easier. Your kindness deserves to be honored, not just remembered." Mary shook her head, still overwhelmed, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't need anything. I just wanted to help." William's gaze was steady, filled with conviction. "Sometimes, helping others opens doors for both sides. You helped my father when no one else would, and now I want to make sure you and your son have a chance to live without constant worry." Mary felt a tear escape her eye, and Liam tugged gently at her sleeve, sensing the emotion of the moment. Henry spoke softly, his voice filled with warmth. "Mary, you gave me hope. You reminded me of the good in people. That is worth more than anything else. But my son, he wants to give something back to you because he sees the heart that I saw in you." Mary blinked, taking a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. William smiled kindly. "There is no need to thank me. Just continue being who you are. Your heart and compassion have already done more than you can imagine." They all stood together for a few moments, the city bustling around them, yet within that small space, Time seemed to slow. The connection between them, built from acts of kindness, respect, and empathy, was palpable. Mary realized how small gestures, often overlooked, could bring about extraordinary outcomes. William looked at Henry and then back at Mary and Liam. "I want you to come with me today," he said. "There are ways we can help your life and ensure you have opportunities for the future, and I'd like you to see them." Mary felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She glanced at Liam, whose eyes were wide with curiosity. "Are you ready, honey?" she asked softly. Liam nodded, holding her hand tightly, sensing the importance of the moment. "Yes, Mom," he said simply. Mary looked at Henry, who gave her a reassuring smile, his eyes shining with gratitude and relief. "Go," he said quietly. "You deserve this. You and Liam deserve to be safe and happy. Never doubt the power of your kindness." Mary took a deep breath, feeling her chest swell with hope, determination, and gratitude. She looked at William, her voice steady but emotional. "Thank you. I don't know how to explain what this means to us." William shook his head. "No need to explain. Let's focus on the future, on opportunities, and on making life better for you and your son." Together, Mary, Liam, William, and Henry walked toward the sleek black car parked near the park, a symbol of the life-changing possibilities that had arisen from a simple act of kindness. As they drove through the streets of the city, Mary reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment: the struggles, the hunger, the fear, and the quiet moments of hope. She understood that life was unpredictable, sometimes harsh, but that compassion could create a bridge where there had been none. Liam sat quietly beside her, occasionally glancing at Henry and William, absorbing the lessons of kindness, gratitude, and human connection that were unfolding before him. Mary felt a sense of peace, knowing that even amidst the challenges of life, her small acts had meaning and had created a ripple of change that extended far beyond what she had imagined. Henry reached out and gently held Mary's hand again, his touch warm and reassuring. "You saved me in more ways than one," he whispered softly. Mary smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "No, Henry, you reminded me of what matters. We all need each other." William looked at them both with a quiet pride and deep respect. "This is just the beginning," he said. "From here on, we will make sure that kindness and compassion continue to guide our lives, and that those who need help find it when it matters most." The car moved through the streets, carrying with it a sense of hope, transformation, and the promise of a brighter future. Mary held Liam close, feeling the weight of the past struggles lighten, replaced by a newfound optimism. She realized that a single act of kindness had opened doors she never dreamed possible, and that life, though full of challenges, also held incredible opportunities for those willing to act with love and compassion. As they continued their journey, Mary felt a quiet determination settle in her heart. No matter what came next, she would continue to act with kindness, knowing that the smallest gestures could create the most powerful changes, and that love and empathy were the true treasures of life. Mary sat quietly in the car beside Liam, her heart still pounding from the events of the morning. The realization that William, the well-dressed man who had approached them in the park, was Henry's son and a successful CEO filled her with awe and disbelief. She glanced at Liam, who sat beside her with wide eyes, clutching his small backpack and trying to understand the significance of the moment. Henry, sitting in the back seat, seemed lighter, more relaxed than she had ever seen him, a small smile tugging at his weathered lips. The car moved smoothly through the city streets, and Mary felt an unfamiliar sense of calm mixed with anticipation, knowing that today could change everything for them. William turned slightly from the driver's seat, looking at Mary with a warm and reassuring expression. "Mary, I know this may feel overwhelming," he said gently, "but I want you to know that my father's story and your kindness have made a lasting impact on me. I want to help your family in ways that make your life more secure and hopeful." Mary took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, her mind racing with thoughts of the struggles she had endured, the late nights at the diner, the empty fridge, the constant worry about bills and Liam's future, and now, in an unexpected turn, a chance for relief and stability. I don't know what to say," she whispered softly, her voice trembling with emotion. William smiled, shaking his head. "You don't have to say anything. Just let us help. You and Liam have already done more than you realize by showing compassion to my father." Mary looked at Henry, who reached over and placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Mary, you gave me hope when I had none. You reminded me that the world still has goodness in it. You and Liam deserve every chance for a better life, and now my son is giving that to you," he said softly, his voice filled with gratitude. Mary's eyes welled up with tears, and she felt a mixture of relief, joy, and disbelief. She had never imagined that a simple act of kindness, a sandwich and some water, could lead to this moment. Liam leaned against her, sensing her emotion, and whispered, "Mom, this is amazing." Mary smiled, brushing his hair gently. "Yes, honey. It really is." The car eventually arrived at a large building, sleek and modern, with glass windows that reflected the bright morning sun. William led Mary and Liam inside, and Mary felt a mix of nervousness and hope. Inside, they were greeted by friendly staff, who seemed genuinely happy to see them, and Mary realized that this was more than just an opportunity, it was a new beginning. William introduced them to offices, meeting rooms, and areas where programs were designed to help families in need. Mary's heart lifted as she realized that William wasn't just offering financial help, he was offering mentorship, opportunities, and the chance to build a better future for her and Liam. Henry stood beside her, his eyes gleaming with pride and relief. "Mary, you deserve this. Your kindness has come full circle," he said softly. Mary felt a lump in her throat, overwhelmed by the generosity and thoughtfulness surrounding her. She thought about all the nights she had gone to bed hungry so that Liam could eat, about all the hours she had worked without rest, about all the small sacrifices she had made, and she realized that somehow, her compassion had not gone unnoticed. Over the next few hours, William explained the support he and his team could offer, from educational opportunities for Liam to stable housing and even flexible work arrangements for Mary. Every word filled her with hope, and she felt the weight of years of struggle lift slightly from her shoulders. Henry watched, his face calm and grateful, knowing that his son's actions were a direct result of Mary's care and compassion. Mary felt a deep sense of purpose, realizing that even the smallest acts could change the trajectory of someone's life, and in doing so, change the world in ways that were quietly profound. After touring the facilities, William invited Mary and Liam to his office for a more personal conversation. Sitting across from them, he spoke earnestly, explaining that the opportunities they were being offered were not charity, they were a recognition of Mary's courage, kindness, and strength. Mary listened, tears spilling freely now, as William outlined ways in which they could live without constant worry, pursue education, and build a life full of security and hope. Liam sat beside her, eyes wide and amazed, as Mary explained quietly that their lives were about to change in ways they had never imagined. Later, Henry pulled Mary aside, his voice gentle but firm. "Mary, you saved me when I was at my lowest. You gave me dignity, hope, and the courage to face another day. My son is only repaying a debt that cannot truly be measured, but I want you to understand how much you mean to both of us," he said, his hands clasping hers. Mary's heart swelled with gratitude, and she realized that this was more than help. This was a connection forged through empathy, kindness, and the human spirit. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings, introductions, and discussions about the future. Mary marveled at how quickly her world had shifted from a life of constant worry and struggle to one filled with possibility, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Liam laughed freely, exploring the new environment with wonder, while Mary allowed herself to dream of stability, safety, and opportunities she had never thought possible. As the day drew to a close, William escorted them back to the sleek black car. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice calm and encouraging. "We will support you every step of the way. Your kindness has started a chain of goodness that will continue for years to come." Mary looked out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the evening sky and felt a deep sense of peace. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a tired single mother sharing a sandwich with a stranger, to a family now connected through gratitude, compassion, and opportunity. Henry squeezed her hand, a quiet gesture of appreciation and warmth, and Mary knew that the simple act of helping someone in need had created a bond that would last a lifetime. Liam leaned against her shoulder, whispering, "Mom, I think we did a really good thing." Mary smiled, brushing his hair softly. "Yes, honey. We did. And look at how much good has come from it." As the car drove through the quiet streets toward their new home, Mary reflected on the lessons she had learned: that kindness was never wasted, that helping others could create ripples far beyond what one could see, and that even in the hardest moments, compassion could open doors to a better life. Henry looked out the window, his face serene, and Mary felt a wave of gratitude for the chance to be part of something bigger than herself. William, driving calmly, glanced at Mary and Liam and said softly, "This is the start of something wonderful. The world is brighter because of your heart." Mary nodded, tears of joy running down her cheeks. She held Liam's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of hope, love, and connection enveloping them. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to truly believe that life could be kind, that opportunities existed, and that the smallest gestures of compassion could create incredible change. As they arrived at a safe and welcoming home, Mary stepped out with Liam, the cool evening breeze brushing against their faces, carrying with it a sense of renewal and promise. Henry and William stood beside them, their presence a reminder that kindness and family could appear in the most unexpected ways. Mary looked at Liam, seeing the excitement and wonder in his eyes, and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that life's struggles, while difficult, had prepared her for this moment, a moment where love, generosity, and human connection converged to create a brighter, more hopeful future. That night, as Mary tucked Liam into his new bed, she whispered a prayer of gratitude, not just for the opportunities they had received, but for the lessons learned along the way, that kindness mattered, that empathy could change lives, and that the world, despite its challenges, still held miracles born from simple acts of love. Outside, Henry and William watched quietly, sharing a smile, knowing that the simple gesture of a sandwich, water, and caring hearts had led to something extraordinary. Mary sat in her new home's small kitchen, sipping tea and reflecting, her heart light and full, understanding that life had given her a second chance, not just for herself, but for Liam, and for the reminder that human connection, compassion, and hope could truly transform lives forever.